This podcast is brought to you by Kyoto Japan Automotive Group, a company which I've known personally for over 20 years, and your one-stop shop for tires, batteries, and auto parts. Visit their website at www.kyotojap.com for more details. My guest is Selahattin Bilgen, CEO of the new iGA Istanbul Airport, the best-connected airport in the world and voted recently by Travel and Leisure magazine as the best airport in the world. Having been in and out of it, I can see why. It is impressive. In our wide-ranging conversation, we discuss Istanbul's growing significance in international air travel, his future plans for the airport, and the difficulties, the unknowns, of running a new and fast-growing airport. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hello, everyone. A couple of months ago, I had the pleasure of visiting, again, one of the world's most fascinating cities, Istanbul, formerly Constantinople. In fact, listeners, if you've ever been there, you will know that it is more than fascinating. It is one of the world's great cities, in terms of its historical context, in Western civilization at least. It is right up there with Rome, Athens, Cairo, Alexandria. That is cities that, in my view, can genuinely claim to have the long view, or the very long view. And my knowledge of Middle and Far Eastern civilization is too sketchy to offer an informed opinion looking east. But to me, there is little doubt that Istanbul is unique because of its location, bridging Europe and Asia. Now, I was running an international congress there for airport and related industries. Hosting the congress was Istanbul Airport, known as iGA Istanbul Airport. It was voted recently the best airport in the world by Travel and Leisure magazine readers. Having been in and out of it, I can see why. It is impressive. My very gracious host was the Chief Executive Officer, Selahattin Bilgen. He made everyone feel welcome. Being the host of any congress, conference, or even party is the most difficult job. And if you've ever done it, you will know. And my guest today scored 11 out of 10 for hospitality. And he's here with me at the other end of a Zoom screen, speaking to me from Istanbul. Good morning, Selahattin. It's good to see you, and many thanks for making time for me and listeners to the McKay interview.
Hello, Michael. That's a great pleasure to talk with you again. And thank you very much for your warm words. It's great to speak with you again.
Good to see you too. Saturday is early morning for you and for me. It must be another busy day ahead for you. So let's get straight into our conversation. Istanbul's significance in the context of international air travel seems to have come almost from nowhere very rapidly. Now, is my impression wrong and perhaps erroneously based on the experience of someone, namely me, who doesn't travel abroad as much as he used to? Tell me a little bit about this rapid progress.
Actually, Istanbul airport has brought a great acceleration to the growth of the airport business in Istanbul and in the region. But Istanbul has historically been one of the favorite destinations. It has a cultural background where it has hosted three major civilizations as a capital, and its history goes back to 8,500 years. So it has already
8,500 years.
Yes,
really,
and you know, it has served as the capital of Byzantine Empire, Ottoman Empire, and Eastern Roman Empire. So it has always been one of the major meeting points of civilizations. So that's why it is really significant in terms of its culture and history. So this has brought a strong presence for Istanbul as being one of the most popular destinations. but thanks to its geographical location, which is in the middle of Europe, Asia, and Africa, it has been also one of the main meeting points of and the crossroads. So with the air traffic moving towards the east, Istanbul has now become in a really advantageous position. So in the past, it was more the Northern Americans and Western Europeans who were using air traffic. But in the recent decades, this has shifted to the eastern parts of the world as well. So everybody prefers to fly more, and there has been more options. So the center of gravity of air travel has moved towards the east, and currently Istanbul is one of the most advantageous cities in terms of positioning with respect to this air traffic movements.
So tell me,
So,
Selahattin, I hadn't realized, in fact, that the city, I should have known it, I should have read my history better at school, that it went back 8,500 years. That's really quite remarkable. And it must have so many stories to tell as a great city of the world. But tell me, what is from a business point of view, what is Istanbul International Airport goal? Where does the airport plan to go, given having seen it and how big it is and how promising it is? Where does your plan take you in 5, 10, 15 years, 2029, 2034, 2039? To give us a sense of the vision that you have.
actually, as I explained about the geographical advantage of the city, the general strategy for our country and for our company has been to put the required capacity to face the forthcoming demand. Mm-hmm. So with respect to this high growth in aviation, the positioning of the country and the city has been utilized by the additions to the capacity of the Turkish Airlines fleet, but also this required a huge investment in the infrastructure part as well. So Istanbul Airport has positioned itself as the most connected airport in the world. Our goal at the initial stage was to become a major global aviation hub, which seems that we have already achieved by becoming the most connected airport in the world. Currently, we serve 316 destinations, which puts us to the top position with respect to connectivity. And with respect to the airlines hosted, we have increased the number of airlines from 61 to 108 in just 5 years. So
when you, sorry, go on, finish what you're saying.
So at the initial stage, our aim was to become one of the aviation hubs globally and try to attract new airlines to Istanbul to further increase the connectivity of the city. So this has been the initial stage goal which we have achieved, and having the future plans which allows us to increase our capacity to up to 200 million passengers and also go above 5 million tons of cargo. Our future plans is now to utilize this opportunity to increase our number of passengers hosted and also become a hub at the cargo side as well. So in the next 5-10 years, we are very ambitious with respect to passenger numbers. This year, we will surpass most probably 82 million passengers, and we aim to reach 100 million passengers by 2027, and 120 million passengers by 2030.
And Mr. Harding, for those of us who are not in that business and don't really understand the size of these numbers. Give us some sense of how that relates to other places like Heathrow or Paris or Frankfurt, or just to put it in some sort of context for us, please.
Yeah. Um, uh, Actually, the current numbers Istanbul Airport has achieved puts Istanbul Airport to the top spot in terms of air traffic movements.
Yeah.
We have been the busiest airport in Europe in the last 4 years.
Mhm.
And in terms of the international passenger numbers, we are globally in the top five.
Mhm.
So putting this huge capacity in place at a critical time and in a geographically advantaged position has helped us to have these numbers. But we have been combining this with the effort in passenger experience side and investing in technology, investing in our people. So in the next coming years, we aim to keep this momentum going. We have seen stronger growth than the Europe and the world in general. Uh, Actually, the aviation industry is also growing very fast. The demand for air travel and air cargo has been nearly triple the average growth rate of economies. So people are expecting to have more comfort, travel more fast, and have their cargoes delivered again very fast. Even if uh, you travel very long destinations. So air travel has become the major choice of travelers as well, which keeps the sector growing, and our share of the market has been growing as well. And in addition to that, we have acted very agile manner during the pandemic times. We kept our investments going even in the middle of the pandemic. We did not make any layoffs. So we were the first major airport to fully recover from the pandemic. This also helped us. Uh, so as I said, our aim for the next 5, 10, 15 years is to continue our position as the most connected airport in the world, uh, together with increasing the passenger numbers at its current pace, and also combine this advantage with becoming a cargo hub as well. You know, most of the air cargo is delivered under the passenger aircrafts.
Yeah.
So with having this huge connectivity advantage, we aim to continue our investments on the cargo side and also become a global hub for the cargo business as well.
Tell me how closely to your success is the success of the national airline? I mean, do they basically work very, very closely together? One depends on the other. Just give us some insights into that.
Yeah, actually, the positioning of Istanbul has been realized by the government, by the Turkish Airlines, by our investors a long time ago. So Turkish Airlines has been investing largely on their fleet growth for the last 2 decades. So they have become one of the major carriers globally. And this has also been one of the big success factors of Istanbul Airport as well. So they play a very critical role. Turkish Airlines growth is crucial for the growth of Istanbul Airport. But it's not just that. As I said, we have increased the number of airlines served at Istanbul Airport from 61 to 108 in just 5 years. This has been the result of many factors. as a technologically advanced, well-developed airport, we still have the opportunity to offer efficient services to the airlines, provide them the maximum connectivity. Any airline coming to Istanbul can connect their flights with the rest of the world. We have flights to 6 continents. We still are able to provide slots even at peak hours to the airlines. Our efficiency KPIs are at the top level in Europe. The loss of baggage, the baggage delivery times, the turnaround times are very efficient in our airport. So this helps us to attract new airlines. So Turkish Airlines is a major player in Istanbul Airport. They have a huge impact on our success, but we have been combining the additional value created by other airlines, as I said, thanks to other factors as well.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that. Well, I wanted to ask you what is expected of a big international airline that wins you new business that you didn't have before? I'm just curious to understand in non-engineering, non-technical language, what are those important components that you need to put in place to exceed your expectations and the expectations of the people that use you? How do you win
Yeah.
new business?
Actually, there are several requirements for that, but in the center of that, we put customer experience and satisfaction and sustainability.
And you do that by research.
Both research and the use of technology, and also investing in our people, in our talent. So there are many factors. And our country also has an advantage with respect to its culture. Turkey and Istanbul is also famous with its hospitality, in addition to its cultural background and history. So at the end of the day, this is a business where you have to make your passengers happy, customers happy, and hospitality is an important part of it. So that's one thing. At the end of the day, you have to provide conditions to the airlines in order to allow them operate efficiently. An airline at an airport requires certain factors like having slots at popular times.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to have a slot in the morning and wants to have a return at the evening, and this requires adequate infrastructure for capacity and also efficient use of that capacity. So one of our advantages in Istanbul Airport has been that we are a new airport, and we have used the latest state of technology in our airport construction. And that has helped us to operate efficiently, to provide capacities at peak hours, to provide services that airlines require, like fast turnaround times, low baggage failures or losses, quick baggage deliveries, so seamless passenger experience. All those are important elements which we believe we provide in Istanbul Airport at the top level. But in addition to that, we have also put sustainability into the center of our mentality, because to us, sustainability is also important, because the demand for air travel has been growing very fast and will be strong in the future as well. But one of the blockers for this demand would be the sustainability constraints. So
we're going to come back to that before we finish. But let me just remind our listeners that my guest today is Selahattin Bilgen, CEO of iGA in Istanbul International Airport, and he's talking to me via Zoom from Istanbul. Selahattin, you're surely aware of Murphy's Law, that what can go wrong will go wrong, and that Edward Murphy was actually an aerospace engineer, so I read. And we all know that
Mhm,
unknown unknowns cannot be addressed, though successful
mhm.
risk management plays an important role in mitigating their effect. But however, what are the difficulties that you face that you actually know about? Tell me about the constraints and the challenges that you face as the CEO, the leader of the management team at the airport. For example, regulatory, technical, political, human and social, financial, engineering, even the regional tensions and war not so far away from
Mhm.
Turkey. I'm just curious to know.
Actually, we have been talking about the good things, but we have surpassed
We're only
many
human.
issues.
We're
In
only human.
uh, as I said, we are a very young airport. We only have 5.5 year history, but we have come along a very difficult path until today. We've been talking about the success, but we have seen many difficulties in the recent times. You know, before Istanbul Airport was opened, we Istanbul was served by Atatürk Airport, our
Yes, I
old
know.
airport,
I went
and
into it quite a few times.
yeah, and Atatürk Airport even was a large airport. It was serving over 60 million passengers,
Yeah,
uh, uh, highly congested with technical capacity of 40 million passengers. So, uh, uh, although we built this airport from scratch, had very good planning, we had to transfer all the operations from Atatürk Airport to Istanbul Airport in 33 hours only,
without disruption.
without disruption. So Murphy started ticking in our agenda even at the inception of our project. So we had prepared for 2 years to be ready for the operations because, as you said, we had to have an uninterrupted operations in the Istanbul air traffic. So that was really a challenge, I
I
should
can
say.
imagine. Yeah.
Uh, uh, Actually, at that time, there were 60,000 people working in Atatürk Airport, and currently there are more than 100,000 people working in Istanbul Airport.
Wow.
And we had to train everybody to be ready for the new airport. Even if all the systems were working very well, everything was tested, we had to make sure that everybody knew uh, what to do, where to do, and how to do their job in the new space.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the challenge was the airport was under construction.
Yeah.
So even at that times we had this challenge. So right after we opened the airport, just 10 months later, we had the pandemic.
Ah,
Although we had a very smooth transition of the airport operations from Atatürk to Istanbul Airport without any interruption, without any major problems, everything went well. Uh, Besides our mental health, we, we had to we had to be really ready for that. So we really had the challenge, and after that we had the pandemic. All the air traffic stopped. So that was another challenge, both financially and operationally.
yeah.
But we believed in the business. We believed that the demand will come back, so we had to be ready for the period right after the pandemic. We kept our labor force. We kept in the belief that the pandemic would end sooner than the expectations. This again helped us with respect to the competition with the others.
Mm.
Once the pandemic was over, we were the first major airport to fully recover. So our short history has been together with challenges and crises. So we are very well prepared for the future challenges as well. So our region, although brings advantages, it's also challenging with
I can
respect to
imagine.
political and other issues, as you just mentioned. But we see an opportunity in every challenge and crisis. So,
Can I ask you one very pointed question? What I'm interested to know is when you talk about the expected growth in international air travel over the next 5, 10, 15 years, I mean, these numbers, mainly because of Asian travel from China, from India, other large countries, these are huge numbers. How does an airline deal with issues like the net zero pressure, sustainable fuels, all the pressures coming from outside through regulation, through non-governmental organizations to get carbon emissions down at the same time with this huge demand for traveling at the lowest cost possible? I mean, I know that's an airline issue, but it's also an airport issue. I'm interested to know how
yeah,
you see that.
actually, that is the main reason I was mentioning about our main focus. One was customer expectation, including airlines and the passengers, but the other one was sustainability. Because
Yeah,
although there is a strong potential for demand, we have to be ready for the net zero targets. Unless we achieve that, we will not be able to provide the adequate supply side of that demand.
exactly.
So that's why this has been one of the major concentration points for us as well.
Mm.
We approach the issue in two ways. One, we as what can we do as Istanbul Airport, and what can we do together with our stakeholders.
Yeah,
Again, here this also being a brand new airport, technologically advanced airport, and an airport built from scratch with this mentality has given us certain advantages.
such as?
Our, our terminal building, for example, is the largest terminal building in the world, but it has a LEED Gold certificate, which means it is the most environmentally friendly building with that size. So that's just one example. We have committed ourselves to be net zero by 2050, but we have surpassed our goals on that end by 13% in our roadmap last year. We invested heavily on a solar power plant where starting from next year, we will produce 100% of electricity requirement of the whole airport ecosystem from solar power from our solar power plant.
Starting from next year.
Yeah, our investment will be finished towards the end of this year, and in the first quarter of next year, we will start generating our own electricity from renewable sources. And we have built a seaport adjacent to our airport where we can handle Cape-sized ships, which will allow us to bring sustainable aviation fuel from any part of the world. So if there is a production of SAF, we will be able to bring it to our airport from any part of the world. So
Wait, tell me
we have
what is CEF again? Explain that one.
SAF is the sustainable aviation fuel
Ah,
in
okay.
short form. So
Yeah.
for the carbon neutralization targets of the airline industry, one of the major pillars for this turn around is using sustainable aviation fuels. So these fuels can be mixed with uh, conventional jet fuels, so up to 50%. And this will significantly reduce the carbon emissions by the aircrafts. So in many parts of the world, the roadmap for the use of sustainable aviation fuels has been determined. For example, in Europe and in our country, we committed to use at least 6% of the aviation fuels from sustainable aviation fuels by 2030. But the main challenge there is the production and logistics. So the question is whether there will be enough production of this sustainable aviation fuels in the required timing, and whether we will be able to have the adequate infrastructure for the logistics.
Okay.
So from our point of view, we try to be ready for that as well. And as I said, Istanbul Airport is a huge airport with an ecosystem. It's like a mid-sized city. There are more than 100,000 people currently working at the airport. So we also have invested in renewable energy sources. So we aim to convert all the vehicles operating at the airport to electric vehicles in a time frame that is determined. And we will be producing the electricity of that consumption from 100% renewable sources.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. Selahattin, we're coming towards the end of our conversation. I've got two more questions for you. One's a little bit unfair, but I hope you'll answer me in good humor. And the other one is quite understandable. Tell me, I mean, you've got everything going for you: location, 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 history, pedigree. But who are your competitors, and where are they?
Well, the center of gravity for global aviation moving towards the east has put ourselves and Middle Eastern hubs in a competitively better position.
Yeah.
So there has the our friends in Qatar, Dubai, and currently Saudi Arabia are investing in the industry as well.
Yeah.
So they are also putting new capacities. But to me, actually, I don't see it as a more mere competition, because airline industry is a little bit different than the others. Just to give you an example, although airlines are competing with each other, they have to make cooperations between themselves. They do, for example, code sharing to operate efficiently, or an adverse impact of one airport can adversely impact the next airport. If there is a delay, then the next flight will be affected as well.
The whole thing is connected.
Yeah. So our industry is really connected. Although there is competition, it's also very important to cooperate and coordinate among the stakeholders of the industry. And since the demand is growing strongly, and the main restrictions are not the competition, but the other factors such as the sustainability issue and others I mentioned, and efficiency. So we are more focusing on what we can do at that end. That's why, although there are other competitors nearby, we don't see a threat on that. We believe we should all focus on making our services better, providing better, seamless passenger experience, providing more efficient services. Then that focus would be our strategy for the future.
Okay. And last question for those of us who may be traveling into Istanbul Airport in the next few months. We're at Q4 now, almost at Q4, looking ahead to 2025. What are you and your team looking forward to in the near future? And what should we watch out for if we're flying into Istanbul iGA Airport in the next 6 months or so? Just give us a clue as to what's new, what's coming up.
Well, there are several things coming
tell me
up,
one or two.
but I should just tell you, Istanbul Airport has now become, as I said, a global hub. We have become a transfer point. More than 40% of our passengers are transit passengers. So we have been trying to also provide a sense of Turkish hospitality and and some sense of our country within the airport as well. So there is a museum within the airport on the air side.
Really?
Also, there are many new offerings on the food and beverage side, providing new tastes. So I strongly recommend to reserve a quite more hours to spend in Istanbul airport, because there is always new things to explore and experience. Even if you are not coming to our country, you will have a sense of the city and the country.
Well, I had personal experience of that when I was there a few months ago. I was in a security queue and I heard this voice behind me saying, "Uncle Mike, is that really you?" And it was my young nephew from New York. I hadn't seen him since he was a small boy, and he was on his way down to Addis Ababa or somewhere, Ethiopia. And we had time together, and it was the most unusual meeting, and it happened in iGA Istanbul Airport. Selahattin, listen, thanks so much for answering all my questions. I wish you continued success. It's wonderful to see you again, and I shall watch very closely your progress in the coming new year. My guest today has been Selahattin Bilgen, CEO of iGA Istanbul International Airport. Thanks again, Selahattin.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Nikkei Interview podcast, brought to you by Kyoto Japan Automotive Group, a company which I've known personally for over 20 years, and your one-stop shop for tires, batteries and auto parts. Visit their website at www.kyotojap.com for more details. And you can find more podcasts on Anchor FM. Just Google Nikkei Interview Anchor FM. Thanks again for listening.